Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this edition of the AVIS-Vaani curations. In keeping with these times, please allow me to start with a general advisory on COVID-19 safety protocols. Please wear a mask, wash your hands, and maintain social distancing when engaging with people outside of your home. Stay safe, everyone. On that note, let me get started. My name is Avis, and there is my beautiful soulmate, Vaani.
Hi, everyone.
We are the happynesswalas. Our life's purpose for Vaani and me is inspiring happiness. Google us, HAPPYNESSWALAS, happynesswalas. We're going through a life-changing, fascinating experience. We've been dealing with a prolonged, enduring bankruptcy for 14 years now. This means that for very long spells of time, Vaani and I have been in the throes of a financial crisis. We've been dealing with worklessness and pennilessness most of the time in these 14 years. Yet, there has been a process of discovery that we've been engaging in. You see, when you're dealing with a prolonged crisis like the one that we are dealing with, apart from the financial dimensions, we also have legal challenges that pin us down. There are social issues, there are emotional issues, professional issues, physical issues. So it has been a very dark, crippling phase materially for us on one side, but also challenging us on many other dimensions. And yet, what we discovered going through this process is something beautiful, something magical. Very intuitively, starting early on when all of this began towards the end of 2007, early 2008, Vaani and I kind of intuitively reasoned between ourselves that what if this is prolonged? What if this is enduring? How do we battle this situation? And so we trained our mind to be non-worrying, non-frustrated, and non-suffering. We understood the futility of worrying, and we said, let's train our mind to be non-worrying. So we don't pick up the worries when they arise. We trained ourselves to believe in the fact that we have a right only to the actions and not to the results. So for 14 years, we've not been able to fix our broken life, yet we remain non-frustrated because we have trained our mind to be non-frustrated. And third, we stopped asking the futile questions of why me? So there is a lot of pain, intense pain, and yet we have not been asking ourselves, why me? So we've been able to deal with the pain without having to suffer from it. So we've learned the art of being non-suffering. So when you are non-worrying, non-frustrated, and non-suffering, you can only be happy. That is how we discovered the potential of being, the power of being happy despite our circumstances. When we came across this discovery, we were like amazed. We said, hey, how do we go and share this learning with people? There are so many people struggling out there. How do we go and tell people that, yes, it is possible to face life when going through a crisis? How can we be happy despite our circumstances? How about sharing this with people? So on one side, success was and continues to be elusive. But we said, instead of trying only to be successful, how about trying to be useful? That process of inquiry, that quest led us to launch my book, Fall Like a Rose Petal. It was launched in August 2014. And in that book, I share the lessons, the spiritual lessons that we've learned as a family on how to be happy and content while living without money. The Tamil translation of this book, Udirum Roja Idar Pola, was launched in 2019. Both the books are available on Amazon, Fall Like a Rose Petal and Udirum Roja Idar Pola. And if you Google, you'll find a lot of notes on us and on the books. We also retooled our business model. We said, how can we distill lessons on life and happiness that inspires managers to high performance? How can we inspire people in the corporate side to look at their happiness, to employ their happiness for high performance? So that's what we do with our boutique consulting firm. And we also, for the last 7 years now, we've been running two conversations primarily, two conversation series centered on the idea of happiness. One of them is called Bliss Catchers. These are live, reflective, non-commercial conversations. They're free for people. One of them is called Bliss Catchers. And in this series, we explore the journeys of people who have gone on to do what they love doing. And in the second series, the one that you are attending with us today, we explore the journeys of people who have every reason to be unhappy about their lives. And yet they've chosen to be happy despite their circumstances. So that's the Happiness Conversation series, and that's the one that you're joining us today for. Both these conversation series give our life a lot of meaning. This is why we say our life's purpose is inspiring happiness. Not just these conversation series, but our books, our talks, our work with managers, whatever we do it as an offering to the universe to inspire happiness. To introduce today's edition of the Happiness Conversations, I'm going to take you back in time to a very famous song in Tamil written by the legendary Kannadasan, and it appeared in the film Sumaitangi in 1962. It was picturized on Gemini Ganesan, sung by P.B. Srinivas, and the music is by M.S. Viswanathan Ramamurthy, M.S. Viswanathan and Ramamurthy. I know a lot of people in the audience are probably not familiar with Tamil, so I'm going to recite the lyrics in Tamil and then translate them quickly for the benefit of everyone. So the song goes like this: Mayakama Kalakama, Manadile Korapama, Varkayil Nadukama. வாழ்க்கை என்றால் ஆயிரம் இருக்கும், வாசல் தோறும் வேதனை இருக்கும், வந்த துன்பம் எதுவென்றாலும் வாடி நின்றால் ஓடுவதில்லை, எதையும் தாங்கும் இதயம் இருந்தால் இறுதி வரைக்கும் அமைதி இருக்கும். That's how the song goes. So it basically means that, are you confused, confounded, fearful, and anxious about your life? Are you lost? And you must understand that life is such that pain is a constant companion. It's integral to the process of life. And if you allow pain to pin you down and you mope and moan, you cannot solve your problems. Your pain is not going to dissolve and go away because you're moping and moaning. Learn to face life. Accept your pain. Embrace your pain. That's what the poet says. And he says, only then can you find lasting inner peace. And that is so true. You see, everyone has a story of pain. Vaani and I are dealing with a bankruptcy. Out there, there's somebody who's having a relationship problem, somebody who's lost a dear one, somebody who wants to have children but is not able to have children, somebody whose children are estranged from them, somebody who's having a health challenge, like our guest today is dealing with Parkinson's disease, or someone's dealing with a last stage cancer. So pain is integral to the process of life. You cannot escape pain. You cannot negotiate with pain. You cannot postpone pain. And what we have to understand is the art of living is actually really the art of co-living with your pain. This is the big secret of life, that you have to accept your pain to move forward. You cannot solve your problems by accepting your pain. Acceptance does not mean that your problems are going to fade away tomorrow. It only means that your ability to deal with that situation will get better. And when you accept your pain, when you say, this is my situation, and you don't complain about it, that is what true happiness is all about. And in this series, the Happiness Conversations, we are actually exploring the journeys of people who have learned to be this way, who have learned, despite their debilitating issues, they've learned to be happy. They've learned to be non-complaining. They've learned to be non-worrying, non-frustrated, and non-suffering. This is the 7th season for the series. We are in edition number 20, and we have guest number 35 today, which is Dr. Shanthipriya, who we all know, those of us who know her closely call her Priya. She has joined us today. So thank you, Priya, for joining us, and welcome to the show. I'm going to introduce her in a bit, but before that, for the benefit of the audience, let me give you the structure of today's program. We've started on time, and we'll go all the way till 8:30 and finish on time, as always. The audience will always be on mute all through today's conversation. We request you to turn off your videos so that we can squeeze extra bandwidth to record this conversation. And in case you're facing any audio or video difficulty at this time, it could be a Zoom issue, so leave the meeting and come back and we'll admit you immediately. And that will settle that issue. All through the conversation, we will not be responding to raised hands, and we will not have a Q&A at the end of the conversation. However, you're free to leave your reactions, your comments, as the conversation progresses in the chat box, and we will pick it up at the very end. We have a 24-hour backup, generator backup in this building where Vaani and I are living. And in case there is a power or internet outage at our end, one of us will be back very quickly. We're also in different devices, so that shouldn't be a problem. On that note, let me introduce our guest for the evening, Dr. Shanthipriya. We met Priya after we read about her in the New Indian Express. This was a story that appeared sometime in 2018, and it talked about her SAR Foundation, the Support, Awareness, Action, and Rehabilitation Foundation that she has set up for people to help people who are dealing with Parkinson's. So we read about it in the newspaper, and we set up a coffee meeting with her at Starbucks, sat down with her, and we found her story to be very, very powerful. We had scheduled the conversation for 2019 November 29, 2019 to be precise. And just around that time, see, our conversations are all curated well in advance. So this conversation that originally was planned with Priya was also curated in advance. But just around that time, Priya had to go into surgery for deep brain stimulation, which is a process she had to follow to learn to be able to manage her PD condition for the long term. So because of that, this conversation couldn't happen then, and it's finally happening today. And it's beautiful that it's happening today in the month of April, which Priya told us is also the month for Parkinson's awareness. So everything happens in its own time, at its own pace, and in its own way. And this is evidence of that. Priya was diagnosed with young onset of Parkinson's disease in 2011 when she was just 36. Her career as an ophthalmologist was at its peak at that time. And we can only imagine what kind of a crushing blow the diagnosis would have dealt to her. She has gone through her own upheavals, and in 2018, she participated in the Ms.Inter-Nations Pageant in Singapore, where she won the Empowered Woman title. And not only did she participate in the pageant, she also wore her life on her sleeve. And she told the world then that she has Parkinson's. It was a big step forward for somebody who was trying to cope with it very quietly in her own limited way. But when she wore her life on her sleeve and when she told the world that she has Parkinson's, she found her life transformed. She has since set up the SAR Foundation and today lives a life of purpose, living in the manner in which she would love to do it, which is to help people who are having Parkinson's, support them with the resources and the learnings that she herself has had to deal with the disease. On the other side, through the lockdowns of 2020, Priya also immersed herself in her passion art and recently held her first exhibition. She launched her book of art and verses, Metamorphosis, and that was last month. And today she joins us to talk to us about her journey of what do you do in life when you're dealt a devastating blow, when life halts your dreams and aspirations, when there is so much pain, so much uncertainty. How do you pick up the threads of your life and how do you move forward? So that's really the focus of today's conversation, on how she's living a life of purpose while living through a life-changing crisis. In this time that we have known Priya, we've also found her to be, she's an ambassador for Parkinson's disease awareness, but she's also, to us, to Vaani and me, she's also an ambassador for life. She's an ambassador for acceptance, and she's an ambassador for living her life fully. Look at her, she's there smiling, radiant, and does not look like somebody who's been pinned down by a crippling disease. She doesn't look that, and that's the beautiful quality that we are going to explore. How do you develop that quality? So on that note, I'm going to invite Vaani to take it from here, and I'll join the conversation as we keep flowing.
Thank you, AVIS, for that lovely introduction and telling the audience all about Shanthipriya. Welcome, Shanthipriya, to the conversation. AVIS and I are very happy to host you on Happiness Conversations. I mean, I know everyone wants to know more about you and about the diagnosis of, you know, the young onset of Parkinson's, but I want to go a little before that. I want to talk to you about what kind of a person were you before this diagnosis? How were you as a child? What kind of dreams and aspirations did you have about your life? Could you tell us something about yourself as a much younger person?
Yeah. First of all, good evening, everybody, and thank you for inviting me for today's conversation. I was born in Chennai into a family of doctors. My maternal grandparents, both of them, and my paternal grandfather were doctors, and both my parents are doctors. So, and when I was around 2 years old, we moved to Manchester in UK, where my father did his FRCS fellowship. He's a laparoscopic surgeon. So, so my early formative years, until 6 or 7 years, I was in Manchester. And then when we came down to India, I changed a lot of schools between the 2nd and 5th. And then I started schooling at Church Park, my alma mater. I was a very shy, introverted. I was plump as a child, but I was very independent. Maybe I grew up in an independent atmosphere, seeing my grandmother and mother, both of them were independent women. And after school, I was in school till 8th, I was so in studies. But after 8th, I developed an interest in studies and I really wanted to do only medicine. I remember telling my parents, I'll do medicine or I'll sit at home. So I took pure science and I was a city and school topper in chemistry. And I got admission in the prestigious Madras Medical College, where I did my undergraduation. And I met my love of my life, my husband, who was my classmate. And then after MBBS, we got married. And then both of us pursued our post-graduation, he in surgery and me in ophthalmology. So life was perfect for me. Me, my son, and my husband, a small family, perfect career. Ophthalmology, I have started with my private practice and then I joined a corporate hospital so that I could spend more time with my son. Because private practice, your timings are very erratic. So I joined a corporate hospital and so that evenings I could spend with my son and family. And so life was perfect for me. Perfect family, perfect career. And I had a lot of friends. We used to travel a lot. 3 of us traveled a lot. So everything seems to be like a bed of roses. So it was very perfect.
And it was so perfect that, you know, we didn't expect, you know, something like young onset of Parkinson's to, you know, life to give you a sock in the face and tell you that, hey, you thought life was a bed of roses, here I am, you know, that kind of, you know, almost as if crushing all your dreams. You know, all of us, Priya, thank you for that lovely, you know, description of your childhood and your, you know, your life as it was, you know, and it must have been such a shock for you to, when you were diagnosed with Parkinson's. And, you know, I think all of us have this thing, you know, we have, when we start off, we all dream about what our life should be like. We have certain expectations. You know, I'm reminded of Rajiv Gandhi, our ex-Prime Minister. He said these beautiful words. He said, I'm young, I too have a dream. You know, famous words. He was actually paraphrasing Martin Luther King. But all of us have this, right? And as we are going along, you know, life comes and gives you a punch in the face. Okay, now you deal with this. You know, it's almost like it's trying to see how you're going to cope with it. And, you know, the thing is that we don't realize that secretly, actually, what life is trying to do through this is to actually, when it's breaking you, it's actually making you stronger. It's making you wiser. It's making you happier. But when it hits you, you don't realize it. All of a sudden, you are like, oh my God, how did my perfect life suddenly get challenged with something like this? So I'm actually going to go to my next question and, you know, ask you. So when this diagnosis actually came to you, you were hardly 36, and, you know, suddenly your doctors are telling you that you have young onset of Parkinson's. And so what happened? Did you like go into like, why me? Why is such a thing happening? Did you go into something like that? Can you tell us actually what happened?
Yeah, let me tell you about little about what is Parkinson's for people who are
Yeah,
not
yeah,
aware.
that will be good. Yeah,
Right,
because not
right.
many people know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Parkinson's is a chronic progressive neurodegenerative disorder which has no cure yet because the cause is still not known. It might be genetic or it might be environmental like pesticides, herbicides, and all. And it is characterized by motor and non-motor symptoms. A few common motor symptoms: tremors or shaking, and slowness of movement, stiffness, small handwriting. And non-motor symptoms are anxiety, which is not visible, anxiety, depression, insomnia. So you can have both. And each person's Parkinson's is unique. You can't say that one person's Parkinson's will be the same as the other. So we need to have a personalized care and medicine. So early 2011, actually, it was like first my son and husband noticed my loss of swing movement of my right upper arm. So actually, we just joked about it because I had a fetish for bags at that time. Wherever I go, whichever place, I used to collect a lot of, and I had a fetish for branded bags at that time. So I thought, okay, my husband said, because you carry your bag that way, that's it. Even we both being doctors, we never took it seriously. So I ignored it at first. And then later one day in the gym, I was not, after we removed the shoes, I was not able to wear my slippers. My leg didn't go into my slippers on my right side. That was when I took it seriously. And first we thought it's because I was already working out a lot. So I thought it was maybe a sprain or something. And the diagnosis of Parkinson's was the last we thought about. So I first went to an orthopedician. He said everything is fine. He then referred to a neurologist. Then we went to our neurosurgeon friend who referred to a neurologist. So the first time when he went, he gave me a few tests and said, you take this tablets. If you become well, you have this. You have Parkinson's. But when I went there, that diagnosis of Parkinson's never entered into me. Maybe I was in a period of denial or I should not. So then when I asked my husband when we entered, after the consultation in the car, he said, no, you don't have Parkinson's and all. So then I didn't even take those medicines actually.
Wow.
Because I didn't. So then with a few months time, because maybe my husband also didn't want that diagnosis on me. So both of us went into a period of denial. So then the symptoms got a little worse. And then we went to another doctor. And I was waiting for my husband at the doctor's office. He's a busy surgeon. So as usually, he was not there. So I had to face the doctor alone. And then after he examined me, he gave me the diagnosis of young onset Parkinson's. That was what it hit me immediately. And the first reaction was I was in tears. I couldn't even talk to the doctor.
Oh my God. And you were alone because your husband was
I wasn't alone.
Yeah.
So I had to face it alone. So then I just went out. And then once my husband came, then again, the doctor spoke to my husband. Everything. Then we went for another opinion, almost 4 or 5 doctors we went. So everybody gave me the same diagnosis of young onset. Then only it struck me that because even when we studied also, it was like people above 60 only get the disease. Even I never knew that it can affect the people below 50. So if it affects below the age of 50, it's called young onset Parkinson's. And I know people who have been affected even below the age of 20. That's juvenile Parkinson's.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay. So it can affect at any age. And it is the fastest growing neuro disorder. It will surpass Alzheimer's, which is the first.
Right.
And the numbers will double by 2040. So first it was very devastating. And we never told anybody other than my parents. Because they being doctors. So even they went into a period of denial. They couldn't accept it. Nobody could accept it. So then I did a little study about what is Parkinson's, people with young onset Parkinson's, like the American actor Michael J. Fox, Muhammad Ali. So I started reading about, and then I read that only exercise is the only study which can delay the progression of the disease. So I started doing a lot of exercise, different types of exercise like Zumba and high intensity interval training, spinning. So whatever I could do, I started gymming a lot. I lost a lot of weight. So I thought maybe because that is the one thing which can delay the progression, I put my heart, everything into that to fight back Parkinson's. I was,
Yeah. Go on, Priya.
So
your family was one that really supported you, right, through this journey.
Yeah, my family and friends, both of them. But at that time, nobody knew. And even my husband's family, they don't know what is Parkinson's. They don't know the implications of Parkinson's. So only limited people knew about my condition, only very close to me. Even at work, I was able to manage. Because the early periods, you don't have much of visible symptoms. And we develop tricks to mask the symptoms.
Right.
So
like even like making a cup of tea for yourself, as you mentioned in that video of yours.
Yeah.
Even simple things can be difficult, right?
Yeah, simple things from like from morning brushing your teeth. I used to brush because my right side was affected first. So it always affects one half of your body first and then it goes to the second. I used to brush only in my right. I became ambidextrous. So I started using my left hand a lot. To eat is difficult because many people have tremors, they can't eat properly. Every activity is difficult. Every activity is a struggle.
Right.
Just before I let Vaani continue, I want to tell everyone that there is a beautiful film, a 7-minute film available on YouTube called Dancing with a Stranger, which is made on Dr.Shanthipriya. Do look it up. It's called Dancing with a Stranger, where she basically talks about how she lives with Parkinson's disease. It's a very inspiring film. Please do watch it. Mom, you want to continue?
Yeah. So, Priya, literally your life changed, right? I mean, you went from just being a normal person. So how long did this sudden diagnosis take you? I mean, like over a period of how many months did you go from being just normal to a person with young onset Parkinson's?
2000,
maybe like what, couple of months?
I don't know, maybe because the studies say that even 10 years before you start developing symptoms, you don't note it.
You don't notice it, right?
So because you notice it only when your motor symptoms are predominant. They say the non-motor symptoms develop 10 years before you are diagnosed. And when you are diagnosed, almost 60 to 80% of your dopamine producing cells are lost.
Right. So your body can't produce dopamine, so you have to exercise to ensure that you have enough dopamine and you can function as a normal human being. Yeah. So so when you've gone from a person who's just a normal person, having, as you described, your beautiful life, a loving husband, a son and a flourishing medical practice, you went all of a sudden from that into having to deal with all these conditions, the tremors, the pain, and all the issues related to Parkinson's. And oftentimes in your mind, you have this question, oh my God, why is this happening to me? Why should this happen to me? How did this all of a sudden happen? And normally, like when we face something painful, right, the mind always protests. we have two forms of protest. You know, one form is that I don't deserve this. Come on, I am a person who is normal, who is, you know, very simple, who is hardworking. I have integrity. Why should such a thing happen to me? You know, you go into that phase in your mind where you think, oh my God. And the second thing is you start thinking logically. You know, the mind thinks very logically. If you are presented a problem, okay, then this problem can be solved by me. And then all of a sudden life comes and presents you with a problem and says, okay, here is a problem that you cannot solve. And then you're suddenly, you know, shocked because you don't know how to solve it. You know, so it must have been a very traumatic experience for you. And I sincerely believe that it is only the support of your family and your friends which has, you know, brought you this far.
Yeah,
and it's amazing your journey, as we'll discover going forward also, I'm sure will inspire a lot of people. Anyway, I'll let Avis take it forward from here because I've been in conversation continuously with you.
Well, it's okay. A logical question that's coming to me is, so how did this whole idea of being part of the Ms.Inter-Nations pageant in Singapore, how did that idea actually come about? I'm asking this because your idea is your idea to participate in that pageant is very courageous. On one side, you have a physically limiting condition, and on the other side, you not only participate in the pageant, you actually go and announce to the world that you have Parkinson's. So tell us about that.
Actually, it must be early 2018. We group of friends, we started doing spinning classes. So during that time only, I met my trainer who still trains me. And he was the one who suggested me to participate in this pageant. And he said it was for married women and unmarried women. I participated in the married women category. I just told him, don't joke. I'm not, maybe I'm not suited for this and all. But he also knows that I have Parkinson's. He said, why not give a try? Then after a few days, we never spoke about that. Then I casually mentioned it to my friend that there's a pageant there and some auditions are happening in Chennai. She said, why don't you just give it a try? There's nothing wrong in giving a try. But it was not my comfort zone. It was not, I don't even know how to wear makeup. So when I went for the auditions, actually another friend helped me to wear makeup and attended the auditions, and I was one of the selected persons. And then then I thought, once I'm selected, I spoke to my husband. He said, why you participate? I had a lot of family and friend support at that time, but it was very grueling training sessions. Wow. Because I had to learn to wear makeup. I had to learn to ramp walk. I had to learn to wear heels and walk, which I never used to wear a lot of heels. I never used to wear makeup. So I had to learn everything. And I had to physically exercise also to maintain my structure, my diet, everything. And I had to, along with that, I had to time, during the training sessions, I had to time my medicines. Otherwise, I can't even walk properly. So I had to time my medications. And another symptom of Parkinson's is you become fatigued very easily. So I had to fight fatigue. And the hardest part was when I was training for the talent round. I did a contemporary dance depicting domestic violence.
Wow.
On women.
Okay.
So that was the hardest part of the training for that. And as every pageant, we have to make a video for the introduction. And it was not scripted at all. my sister just told me to write a few, just talk about a few things, what happened in my life. It was on the spur of the moment that I thought that I should say that I should announce to everybody that I have Parkinson's. I started accepting the fact that I have Parkinson's from day one of diagnosis, but complete acceptance was when I announced the world. It was like a weight off my shoulders, my burden. I need not mask my symptoms anymore. I need not mask anything. It was like a relief for me. And that video became viral among my college groups, my college senior groups, all among the doctor circle. And I got a very good feedback and a lot of people supported me. But nobody sympathized with me. That is what I don't like sympathy. Because I'm a very independent woman. For example, I forgot to mention my early years. I used to walk when Manchester, when I was 3 or 4 years old, I used to walk alone from home to school and back to school with my house key pinned to my coat. So I never liked being dependent on anybody. So till now, I'm not dependent.
Beautiful, beautiful.
So that feedback, everything motivated me. And I want to show everybody that having adversity cannot stop you from doing anything what you want.
So that's what drove you. That's what drove you.
That's what drove me.
I like what you said, Priya, which is the fact that complete acceptance came on the spur of the moment when you announced to the world through that video that you have a condition called Parkinson's disease. When we all deal with life situations, as you know, exploring what you were telling Vaani a little earlier, we start with denial. We start with why me? Then fear, anger, guilt, anxiety, all of them come and plague us from different directions. And while we may be accepting our condition, we'll still be fighting it. We'll still be resisting it. And all of this makes the entire process of moving forward very, very, very difficult. Only through acceptance does our ability to deal with a situation improve. Only through acceptance do we get resilient. Only through acceptance do we have the courage to face the situation, to see the reality and move forward. So acceptance, our experience for Vaani and me, we struggled a lot with acceptance in the initial stages. We also have discovered that acceptance does not solve a problem immediately. Look at us. We're still dealing with our crisis. It's enduring, it's ongoing. So it doesn't solve a problem necessarily. There are some problems that it solves. There are some problems that it can't solve. But acceptance makes the process of dealing with the problem more efficient. It makes it simpler because there is no fight, there is no friction. When there is friction, there is unhappiness. There is a lot of suffering when you ask why me. But if you drop the why me and accept the pain, then the friction goes away and it's a lot more smoother. So this has been our experience. When we accepted, for you, it was the pageant in Singapore. For us, it was the book, Fall Like a Rose Petal. When we came out and we told the world that, hey, listen, we are bankrupt and we have no money, but we have learned to be happy, then many people advised us not to write the book, not to talk about the book at this time of our life. They said, after you repaid your debt, after you come out of your problems, then you can talk about it. But we said there are a lot of people struggling out there and we want the book to reach them, to know that there is a possibility to deal with the crisis on an ongoing basis. So much love, so much compassion, so much kindness has come our way, as has come your way too, as we'll talk about it as we go along. But it was an important turning point for us, this whole idea called acceptance. and as we can see with you. So that's what I wanted to share with you. Let me pass it back to Vaani for her.
Yeah, I want to again pick up on that point of acceptance that Priya and you were talking about. Priya, for you, this whole thing of accepting your condition, the fact that you have a problem, you have a young onset of Parkinson's, actually brought you closer to your purpose, right? I mean, you have said that your purpose in life, you found it, which is to provide support and resources to people who have Parkinson's. And you have therefore set up this foundation. And so can you talk to us a little bit about this acceptance journey itself and what you did with that?
As I told you, the acceptance started from day one of diagnosis. Slowly, I accepted the fact, because what I went through, I didn't want others to go through, because I didn't have, there was no support group at that time. I didn't have anybody to share my symptoms with. But now you have a lot of support groups. You have a lot of people talking about Parkinson's. The awareness is better, but in 2011, it was not there. So that was, so once I came back from my pageant, and that was when I realized what I wanted to do in life. So I realized my purpose, that I wanted to empower and inspire people to live well with Parkinson's or any adversity. So that was when the idea of SAR was born. Before that, I just started my Instagram channel, handle and Facebook page, and I named it Shake Off and Move On.
Shake off
and move on.
Shake off and move on. Okay.
Yeah. So that is my tagline of my foundation now. So I feel you need to shake off all your adversities and move on with life. So that was when, so when I came back after starting all this, I got a lot of reviews, because I used to post a lot of details about Parkinson's, about the latest research, everything. Then the idea of that I want to do more for people. That was when SAR was born. Actually, SAR is taken from the Tamil word Sarndu, which means shelter.
Oh, okay.
And I built the acronym on top of that. SAR, SAAR, Support, Awareness, Action and Rehabilitation. So actually the root is from Sarndu.
Okay.
So and then there was before starting SAR, there was an article about me in a Tamil daily. That was when lot of people approached me. So all people with Parkinson's or caregivers for Parkinson's. That was one that also gave me a motivation to do more for people with Parkinson's. So that was when the idea of SAR Foundation, and I first spoke about this to another dear friend of mine who has an adversity in her family. So I chose all my directors like that. So that because only a person with adversity or anything can understand the other person.
That's true.
Yeah. So we do a lot of awareness camps. We conduct workshops on how to live well with the disease. And like yoga, Tai Chi, sound healing. It's like a holistic approach to living well with Parkinson's or any neurological disease. So that was when, and many people started approaching me. I've spoken to a lot of people who first feel very devastated, but they need a lending ear, because I am in the medical field, I know about Parkinson's. The others don't even know about Parkinson's. The caregiver should know about Parkinson's, how to deal with the person with Parkinson's. So I talk a lot about that. So not only the person of Parkinson's, even the caregiver should be given a lot of information about how to deal with, because it's a progressive disorder. And you have a lot of good days and bad days. Every day is not the same as in this.
Very powerful, very powerful.
And what are the kind of activities that you do at SAR, Priya?
Yeah, we conduct workshops on exercise. Each symptom has various exercises. Then workshops on yoga, Tai Chi, speech therapy, because at later stages your speech becomes affected, and to improve your gait. So we have a lot of talks by neurologists also. And now because of the COVID past 1 year, everything is being virtual. And we are also under high risk category, Parkinson's patients.
Oh, okay.
So everything is being virtual, and
Right.
and people now don't like virtual. I don't know when it's going to come to normal again.
Yeah. You've also done a marathon, if I'm not wrong, right?
Yeah. The April 7th, 2019, we inaugurated with a walkathon. It's not a marathon, walkathon. And we didn't expect, we expected maybe a crowd of 200, 300, but actually more than 1,000 turned up. So
Wow.
that was, yeah. So that was another support and motivating factor for us.
Yeah, yeah.
And I have a very good team of in our foundation, nutritionist, a neuro rehab trainer, and a research coordinator. So we are as a team, and also the people or members of this thing, all together only we can fight back.
This is amazing. What you're doing is amazing. I really like that line of shake off and move on, which is deal with your adversity through acceptance and learn to not cling on to it, but to keep moving. Mom, you want to do a quick summary?
Yeah. I want to quickly summarize what Priya spoke about. This whole thing of finding purpose is such a beautiful concept. Avis was saying in the opening remarks how he and I found purpose. When we stopped asking how can we be successful and we started asking how can we be useful, then we found our purpose of which is to inspire happiness. And similarly, when you Priya accepted your condition, you actually found your purpose of wanting to provide support and resources to people with Parkinson's. This purpose is really beautiful. Actually, you don't go and find your purpose. I feel it's the reverse. Your purpose comes and finds you. And many times, purpose has got nothing to do with name, fame, or any money or any such thing. Purpose is only about serving people. It's only about serving something to somebody else. And oftentimes we find our purpose at a time when we ourselves are in a crisis, and we are in a very difficult time in life. Just like what had happened to you, it happened to Avis and me also. We found our purpose at a time when we were in a great difficulty. So, borrowing, Avis is very famous for using Rumi quotes. So today I'm going to borrow from him. Rumi said this. He said, the wound is where the light enters. So, it's only when you are in trouble that, you actually start thinking and your purpose finds you. So that's what I wanted to say.
Rumi also said that allow your hearts to be broken until it opens up.
Very correct. Very correct. Very correct. See, Rumi is universal.
Yes, sir.
So universal. Absolutely. Priya, I want to pick on something that you said, which is you talked about the fact that when you're dealing with a progressive nervous system disorder, progressively your movements, your activities are going to get limited, which means the future can scare you. The future can debilitate you. How do you live with that kind of an outlook? What kind of an attitude have you created for yourself to be able to live with that outlook? Today, everyone is talking about uncertainty. Everyone is talking about fear from COVID, but you have been dealing with it for a long time. So what kind of an attitude do you bring to the table every day?
I never think about tomorrow. So when you know your life is short and today you think about it as today is your last day, then you can live it to the fullest. So you need to embrace your life. It's a beautiful journey. Life is a beautiful journey. And you have to embrace it to the fullest each day as it goes. Today should be better than yesterday. And this year should be better than last year. It's like that. I never think about the future. I know how it will go on, but I never think about it. So 10 years down the lane, 8-9 years down the lane, when you're into Parkinson's for a long time, you start developing a lot of side effects of the medicines, complications. I started developing dystonia, which is painful spasms of the body. Every day I used to suffer from dystonia. So it'll take a long time for the medicines to kick in and I have to just stay in one place for a long time. And then dyskinesia is the opposite of your slowness of movement. You'll have involuntary movements that started developing. So that was when we thought that we should go in for the surgery. Otherwise, I wouldn't have thought about the surgery at all. And this surgery has to be done under local anesthesia and you need to be awake.
Wow.
Because then only the neurologist will know, because it's a brain surgery and he has to place electrodes in that proper place. Just 1 millimeter this side and that side, anything can go wrong. So we decided, me and my husband, we had a long chat and we decided to go in for this because I started developing a lot of complication, a lot of motor fluctuation. My medicines never started to act. So that was when I started, we thought about the surgery. And it was supposed to be in Jan 2020, got preponed to December, and was just 1 day before 30th November was my surgery, and 29th was supposed to be a talk.
Right.
And that's why it got cancelled. I could postpone. Yeah. So a lot of revelations in me took place when I underwent the surgery. So when you have your brain open, you can hear the burr-holing of the skull. So you need to believe in yourself. So I thought about that I need to be present for others, for my loved ones, for other people with Parkinson's. So that gave me the drive to go through the surgery. It was a 12-hour surgery.
Oh, amazing. 12 hours. Wow.
So, but it was a life-changing one. My quality of life is better now. My medications are lesser. But even now I have good days and bad days. But that is a part and parcel of life, of my condition.
And of life in general, but particularly of your condition.
Yeah.
What I really liked about was your opening point, that you don't think about tomorrow. That's the biggest quality, that's the biggest attitude that you brought to the table, which is, again, we'll go back to Rumi. Rumi says, forget the future. I will worship someone that can do that. So I'm sure if Rumi were around, he would worship you, Priya, for being able to forget the future. But the way you're addressing this, the way you're talking about it, and the way you've gone about this, reflects on a lot of practicality that has been brought in to deal with the crisis, to deal with the condition. Many people think that dealing with the crisis is not possible. Dealing with the crisis as crushing as Parkinson's, as crushing as an enduring bankruptcy, as crushing as the loss of a loved one, or as crushing as a broken relationship. So each one believes the crisis is finishing them off. But if you bring in a lot of practicality to the table, you can deal with the crisis on an ongoing basis. And practicality breaks down into two parts. as we have seen it, Vaani and I. One, please accept it is what it is. It is what it is. It is not something else. So don't imagine, don't try to build a storyboard, a screenplay which doesn't exist. It is what it is. And the second is, in that situation, in that circumstance, you can only do what you can best do. So do it to the best of your ability. So do whatever you can, do it to the best of your ability, and then go with the flow of life. So this is what the Bhagavad Gita also says, that do not, have any expectations of the results, of the outcomes. You only have a right to your actions. And that's what practicality is all about, doing your best in a given situation and leaving the rest to life. Mary Oliver is another poet, American poet, who wrote this very beautifully. And I can link that to your attitude, Priya. That's why I'm going to quote her. She said, "It is a very serious thing to be awake on a fresh morning in this broken world. It is a very serious thing to be awake, to be alive on a fresh morning in this broken world. So deal with day one, and when you wake up, deal with day two, and then that becomes your day one, and then you go on and on, one day, one step at a time." Amazing. I'll let Mom, you have a question here?
Yeah. I actually want Priya to tell us something about your art, because in the last 1 year, more than 1 year, ever since I think the lockdown started, you have actually been immersing yourself in art, in painting, and putting your expressions out in the form of you held an exhibition of your paintings. You're a self-taught artist. You also wrote a book called Metamorphosis, which features your art and the verses that you wrote. So, tell us something about this journey. How did it start, with art? You refound your interest in art. So how did that happen?
Actually, I was a creative person during my childhood itself. I used to do my records in zoology, botany, and I used to paint for school culturals. But once joining medical school, everything comes to a halt. So I never thought about painting and all, but I never had any formal training during my young age also. So then it was just much before the lockdown. Maybe in early 2019, I happened to attend an exhibition of my friend's daughter, painting exhibition, that rekindled my passion inside me. That was when I immediately got tubes of paint. That was when when I did in school, it was only watercolors and oils. Then I was introduced to the world of acrylic paints. So then I immediately got a set of acrylic paints and I started painting. And the first painting I did was Hope.
Hope, okay.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So, yeah. And so I started painting at that time, but I never took it seriously. And another incident is, I don't even remember sending my painting for the Art of Inclusion, the first edition Art of Inclusion for India Inclusion Summit. It is an art for disabled people. And I was selected among 600 artists. We were 8 of us. This happened in 2019. And it was held in Bangalore. It is a summit for disabled people. And all of them who attended were so inspiring. And that event gave me the confidence in me as an artist. And this was the painting I drew for the other thing. This is called Metamorphosis.
Right.
This depicts my acceptance, from adversity to acceptance.
From adversity to acceptance. Lovely.
Yeah, it is based upon the metaphor that when the caterpillar thought it was the end of the world, she turned into a butterfly.
Right.
So the metamorphosis, that is the metamorphosis, the story of my life.
It is.
Yeah. And during the COVID time, we were at home, lot of time in hand, and lot of time to think inwardly. That was when I started doing a lot of paintings, and I started penning down my thoughts. And that turned into verses. I never thought that I will release a book at all at that time.
So this book is available on Amazon, right? This
Yeah,
Metamorphosis.
Amazon, it's available.
Right.
So actually, there's a story into my book also. First, my friend's friend is an editor. He's not an editor, but he's a professor. I sent the poetry to him. Right. Because I can't say, I don't know whether it's a poetry or verse or writing, because I had no literary knowledge at all. So then he edited it and told me you can publish it. That was when that idea said, you really think I can publish this? He said, yeah, you can. That was when the thought of publishing. Then I went to my other friend who's a poet. She only gave me the idea of making it into a book of art and verses.
Right.
So this has 36 poetry and 36 art. Depicting same. The poetry will depicts the art. I feel art and poetry is a way of expressing myself. And when I first did that, I feel when I'm doing art, I'm free. I don't think about anything else. My mind is free. And it's what I paint that day depends upon my emotions. What colors I use depends upon that day. So it's a vehicle for me to express myself, and it's an extension of myself. And March, I kept my exhibition. It was all women's emotions. I had displayed around 29 to 30 paintings on women. And each painting had a part of me.
How interesting. And considering that, I mean, I think this is quite an achievement, because you mentioned that, you know, even doing normal tasks like brushing and things can be a problem, and you are actually painting. You know, you for a person with your condition, you could have trouble even holding a brush, but you know, you've done such beautiful artwork, and you held an exhibition, you've published your paintings. And what I liked best was what you said about how art is a form of expression for you. You know, art is therapeutic, art is healing, art is a form of expression. And, you know, I'm sure like when you pour yourself into your art, if I can say, if you pour yourself into your art and you immerse yourself in the art, then there is no more of you, only the art is there. And you know, I read this when I'm talking about art. I read this nice quote by this German philosopher called Friedrich Nietzsche. He says this, you know, we have art so that we don't die of the truth. So we have art so that we don't die of the truth. So art can be that, you know, it can be totally uplifting, and in a life which can actually pull you down, it is only art that can lift you up and take you upward. So
when I'm doing my art, I don't even know the time. And I learned how to overcome the difficulties in my. So I paint even with my left hand. Even now, the fine detailing is difficult.
Right.
So I learned over the period of time various techniques by watching other great artists, seeing other great artists' pictures. So I learned only by that, how they do the composition and how they. So I'm still learning the learning process. And like writing a journal, art and poetry was like my journal.
Lovely.
Lovely, lovely. But you know, if your art that we see on Facebook that you post is anything to go by. What we're seeing behind you is anything to go by. It's an unadulterated, authentic expression of who you are. And you may find some of your strokes difficult, but we find them magical. Let me tell you that. You know, I love Nietzsche, I love Rumi, but I'll go back to Kannadasan because you're reminding me of Kannadasan. And people who know me well know that this is one of my favorite Kannadasan songs that actually is a continuation of the previous song that I was referring to at the beginning of the program. And I'll again translate it for everyone's benefit. Kannadasan says, how do you actually attain that state of lasting inner peace? And Kannadasan says, Yezhai manadai maaligayakki, iravum pagalum kaviyam paadi, naalai poludai ireivanukku alittu, nadakkum வாழ்வில் அமைதியை தேடு, உனக்கும் கீழே உள்ளவர் கோடி, நினைத்துப் பாரு நிம்மதி நாடு. So he says the mind is impoverished. And how is the mind impoverished? Because it is in the dead past, anger, grief, guilt, or it is raised to the unborn future, which is anxiety, worry, fear. So the mind is not present in the now. So it becomes impoverished. So the impoverished mind, convert it into a palace of abundance. And how do you do that? By doing what you love doing and make it an offering to the universe. Now, in the poet's case, like in your case, you're a poet also. It is iravum pagalum kaviyam paadi. Now it can be kaviyam, or it can be ovium, or it can be gardening, or it can be cooking, whatever you love to do. It can be music, it can be writing, whatever you love to do. If you immerse yourself in it and offer it to the universe with no expectation of a return, then you will find lasting inner peace. Now, Vaani and I have found that lasting inner peace finds you. You don't have to go and search for you of it at all. That's what you meant when you said, when you paint, Priya, you said you forget yourself. You lose yourself in time in your art. And that, the poet says, is the way to inner peace. And he says that always remember, at this precise moment in life, no matter what any of us is going through, there is someone more challenged than us. There is someone who is more pinned down by life. And so when you think of them, count your blessings and learn to move with life, flow with life. So I was reminded of that. And, you know, this is my favorite Kannadasan poem. And, you know, for me, this is an anthem on happiness and life. So I keep talking about it. But let me move on and talk to you a little bit about, I'm keeping a watch on time, so we are okay for the moment. But I would like to kind of combine two thoughts that are running in my head. And so this may well be the last question for the evening, Priya, but answer it, take your time to answer it, which is, what is your idea of faith? How has faith helped you in this process? Was it a coping mechanism? Did you go inward and turn spiritual than be religious about it? And has your idea of happiness changed? Do you view happiness differently from what you used to view before? So part A and part B, faith and happiness.
So when your outlook in life changes, your happiness also changes. So that was, I was not a religious person from the beginning, but over these years of acceptance, I started my journey inward. Even I have written a poem about it. The answers to the unanswered question lies in the one in the middle. It lies inside you. So when you think about, and this COVID time, I did a lot of thinking about myself. That was when you get to know, when you think inward, that journey, that was when you know your gifts and talents, you realize your purpose, you realize your passion, you realize your heart, what it wants. From before Parkinson's, I led a contented, perfect life with a small family, house, traveling, That was all that meant happiness to me. But after Parkinson's, the whole idea of life and happiness changed. For me now, being happy is making a difference in the life of a person with Parkinson's. Being happy, if I made up someone, my story has inspired someone to live well with any other person. That gives me happiness. So I feel suffering is the nature's way of making you special. So life puts you onto challenges. You emerge a more, as you told, a more resilient person. So after Parkinson's, I become more resilient, more compassionate towards people, more empathetic towards people, which I was not before Parkinson's. And I can say that before Parkinson's, I was only a mother, daughter, wife, ophthalmologist. But after Parkinson's, I'm a self-taught artist, I'm a writer, I'm a poet. And I treat Parkinson's as that in my video, I'd have said that dancing with a stranger. It's because I treat him as a friend. Even though he's a stranger, he's a friend. Because I have to live with him till the end of my life. So that's how my outlook of life and happiness changed. I love traveling around the world. And there were two places which changed my life completely. One was Egypt, when a group of 15 of us had the king's chamber inside the pyramid to ourselves. That was when my first thought of the journey to complete acceptance started. And then another one was in 2019, I came across World Parkinson's Coalition. They conduct congresses for people with Parkinson's, caregivers, neurologists, researchers, all under one roof. They do a great job. And I just came across an article and I thought, okay, I should attend it. So I feel everything happens for a reason, or destiny, or in another word, you can say that I grabbed all the correct opportunities which came across I made the right choices, which gave good results. So I attended the World Parkinson's Coalition and I was able to meet so many people with young onset Parkinson's and old onset Parkinson's, and such inspiring stories. And that paved my way for a global advocacy. And now I'm one of the 15 ambassadors for the tenure 2020 to 22. And it will be held in Barcelona in 2022. And I'm the first Indian ambassador.
Wonderful, wonderful. I love the way you said before Parkinson's, after Parkinson's.
Yeah.
I think that distinction is very revelatory, because what a crisis does is it transforms us. It makes us celebrate what we are created for. I'll come to some of my key learnings there. But before that, I want to go back to that question on faith. You know, we live in a society where we are conditioned to believe that a challenge is quote unquote God's way of punishing us for previous sins and all of that. So did you get to hear that kind of social messaging? Did it come your way? How did you deal with it? And I heard you say that during the surgery, I heard you say that you had to believe in yourself. So is that your idea of faith now?
Yeah, you're correct. My idea of faith is believing in myself. I feel you need to believe in yourself. Even getting through this period, pandemic, you need to believe in yourself and follow the protocols. No one else is going to help you. So, and nobody told me about these rituals and all, because they know about me, my family and my friends. They know that I don't believe in all such things. So nobody dared to come and tell me all this. I know I'd have not accepted all this at all.
So I love that. I love that spirit. I love that spirit because it's very practical again. You know, the biggest sin is to not live your life fully. The biggest sin is to postpone your happiness because somebody tells you that you cannot be happy. Even if it is life telling you that you cannot be happy, Vaani and I have learned that through training our mind to be non-worrying, non-frustrated, and non-suffering. So we are happy despite the problems, and it is possible. So I love that spirit of yours. And I also want to go to your earlier answer on happiness, that happiness is now about touching the life of somebody who has Parkinson's disease. So the happiness is flowing from a place of purpose. It's got a meaning to it, and it's not about getting things, but it is about giving. It's you know, the paradigm has shifted. And I also liked your reiteration to my suggestion, that is faith about believing in yourself. And I'm reminded when you were saying, yes, it is about believing in myself. It reminded me of Kabir. Kabir, the 15th century weaver poet. He says, "Moko kahan dhoonde re bande, main to hoon tere paas mein. Na muhurat mein, na tirat mein, na ekant nivas mein. Na mandir mein, na masjid mein, na Kaabe Kailas mein, main to hoon tere vishwas mein." So Vishwas is faith. The poet says that, where are you searching for me? This figure called God, where are you searching for me? I am within you, and I am not in a place of worship. I am not in a retreat or in an ashram. I am not in an idol. I am not in a temple or in a mosque. I am not in Kaaba or in Kailasa. I am in your faith. And faith is trusting the process of life. That life has created us, life will look after us, life will provide for us. So that is what I'm picking up from you. Amazing. Thank you. Thank you for answering both my questions.
One more thing is, I never say I can't do anything. So we have to say I can. Only if you try and you can, you can. So you need that also. Never say I can't do this, I can't do that. You can do, anybody can do anything. So I hate the word can't.
That's not a philosophy to me. That's being practical. Yeah. Because unless you you walk the tightrope, you will really not know that you have the ability to walk the tightrope. Yeah. And that's what we have learned going through our own journey. And as Rumi says, the journey is the reward. There is no place to go to. There is nothing that has to be won, nothing to be proven, nothing to be achieved, nothing to be claimed. The journey is the reward. So amazing. I love that. Let me now do a quick summary and you know, put together what we are taking away from this conversation. Priya's story is one of a celebration of acceptance of who she is, acceptance of her reality, and acceptance of the opportunities that lie in front of her, and she's grabbing all of them with both hands. What can we take away from her beautiful journey? You see, think of your life as a pizza, and as a pizza, and think of your problems as the size of a slice of that pizza. So that triangular slice that you pull out from a pizza when you have it, that is your problem. And often these problems are not immediately solvable. Some of them are complex. A bankruptcy, for example, at some point we can be hopeful of solving, but a Parkinson's disease, you cannot solve. So these are complex problems. You intuitively know how to deal with them. You made peace with them, and you are keeping them there within your vision, and you're learning to co-live with them. The larger part of the pizza, the slice, when it comes out, there's a larger part that's left. That is the part about existential drama. The existential drama is about grief, guilt, anger, jealousy, fear, worry, anxiety, stress. And most of this existential drama is created by external stimuli, by people, society, environment around you, and often it connects with the big problem, that's life. So as long as you cling on to the existential drama, and as long as you cling on to the big problem, you will never be happy. You have to move away from these two, the existential drama and the big problem. You cannot move outside of them, but you have to find them, your center in living with your problem, in living with the existential drama. Swami Vivekananda said this very beautifully. He says, anyone can be calm when asleep or when in a cave, but stand in the battle of life, in the middle of the battle of life, stand in the whirl of action and find your center. When you find your center, you will be unmoved. So you cannot, learn to be happy despite your problems, despite your circumstances, by clinging on to your unsolvable problem or by responding to every stimuli on the existential drama front. You have to find your center. How do you find the center? That is what Priya has done by immersing herself in her art, by serving people around her with a sense of purpose. Those are ways in which you find your center. And when you find your center, you will be unmoved. When you're unmoved, you will be non-complaining. When you're non-complaining about your life, no matter how tough it is, you will radiate joy like Priya does. You will be happy, non-worrying, non-frustrated, non-suffering, and living a full, thriving life. I'll end with Mary Oliver today. Mary Oliver said, someone I loved once gave me a box full of darkness. Someone I loved once gave me a box full of darkness. It took me years to realize that that too was a gift. So in Priya's life, the box of darkness came as Parkinson's disease. In our life, it has come as a bankruptcy. Maybe you are dealing with your own box of darkness, all of you out there in the audience. Please remember that it is a gift, because your crisis, your challenge is there to teach you to be stronger, wiser, and happy. So we had a beautiful conversation with Priya, and I want to thank you, Priya, for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the conversation too.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Vaani and I will leave you with something very special virtually right now. I will send it to you on WhatsApp. It's a button, a virtual button to celebrate your presence here with us today. And please share it on social media, as your WhatsApp DP, Facebook DP, as an Insta story on LinkedIn, and help us spread the message of inspiring happiness.
Sure.
So thank you once again for joining us and sharing your journey. Ladies and gentlemen, let me make a couple of quick announcements before we wind up the conversation. So what is coming up next is on 29th May, we have Bliss Catchers, and we have a wonderful couple, Sangeeta Ranganath and Prasanna Veeraswamy. They're world travelers. Over the last 23 years, they've traveled to over 200 countries in the world without leaving their jobs. The important thing is without leaving their jobs. And these countries are, some of them are recognized by the UN, some of them are not. Their bliss for Prasanna and Sangeeta is traveling. So join us 29th May, Saturday, 7 p.m. here on Zoom. And it's a free conversation. If you have not added yourself to our mailing list and would like to do it now, please message us at the Happiness Wala on Instagram, or write to us through our website, www.thehappinesswalas.com. Leave your name, email ID, mobile number, and the name of the city you live in, and we'll add you to our mailing list. Thank you so much. Some of you have joined us from different parts of India and the world. Thank you so much for being here with us today. As I leave you, let me remind you, if you're interacting with anybody outside your home, outside your immediate family, please wear a mask, wash your hands, and maintain social distance. We love you, Vaani and I, and thank you so much for joining us. Please leave your comments in the chat box and we'll pick them up. Thank you. Be good, be happy. We love you.
Thank you, Priya, for joining us.
Yeah.